Yo, what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's STORMYBMAN, and I am back welcoming you to the post-fight show with STORMYBMAN. That's right, for this Saturday, April 3rd, 2021. And this is the post-fight show for the Herring versus Frampton, the WBO Super Featherweight title that was just broadcast on ESPN Plus. Welcoming everyone that's out there, that you guys were out there catching the fight. The brother KQKC was calling the fight, and I'm sure there's many others that was out there calling the fight, but I am glad that you stopped by here to check out my angle and my point of view of how I saw it as I listened to the brother do his call. And I want to say salute to KQ. I listened to his broadcast today just to, stay in there and support. And I really enjoyed the banter between the chat and everything. And it was quite a ending for today's efforts. I want to start off by acknowledging people out there. I know a couple people were waiting, and Stormy likes to give people a chance to get their beverage or whatever, after watching something, you want to run to the restroom, do all of that kind of stuff. That's why I've learned to kind of just like give you guys a little bit of a musical interlude, so to speak, before we jump right into the show. And for those of you who have been out there following me in the past, you kind of got that understanding right now. And for some of you who may be joining the broadcast new, I'm kind of explaining myself here, so you guys will have an understanding. When you see the musical interlude, it's just giving people a chance to do the things they got to do just before the show kicks off, man. And there's nothing to it more than that. And we like to keep it real simple around here. I hope that you guys go ahead and smash that like button as you come in and we get ready to get into the broadcast. I want to take some time out and acknowledge I've got a couple of things going on here at once, but trying to acknowledge people that have come into the chat and everything. We got brother Mark Nash out there. He says, let's go. Chi-Town's Finest is out there, says, smash the like button as you come in. Boxing MMA 365 says, thanks, Chi-Town's Finest, for letting me know of the channel. I'll be back for the live. Mike 202 saying post-fight. And Silvestrio is out there, says, Stormy salute. Chi-Town's Finest, my man, is out there saying, Salute to Boxing MMA 365. And we got Andrew Charles out there says, salute Stormy B-Man in chat. Big Lake Show says, salute Unc Stormy B. And Watcher says, that uppercut. Yeah, man. Wasn't that something? And we gonna get into it, man. We're gonna talk about it a little bit. Because I'm sure everybody going to have something to say in the chat, and you're going to be interested in what I have to say. And hopefully we'll be joined by my man Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. I wasn't able to reach out to Reggie yet, but he usually stops by for this post-fight show. But there was so many things I had to do behind the scenes, man. It's like we're kind of dealing with some things over here. You know, my wife is under the weather, and I'm trying to get some things resolved for her. So keep me in your prayers for that, please. Mark Nash out there in that super chat saying, support the show. Hashtag Mark Nash. Hashtag Breaking Hearts. Hashtag Stormy B-Man. Well, at least you put me in there somewhere. Mark Nash, my heartbreaking days is beyond me, bro. I leave that to you guys. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, man, what a fight today. There were some fights broadcast earlier today on DAZN, and I did not get a chance to watch that in its entirety. My DAZN app started flipping out on my TV, so when I thought about the fact that I could watch it on my tablet, I had already let a couple of the bouts go by. And I just said, forget it with the DAZN thing, because they so iffy and everything. Anyway, they treat us like whatever. So I ain't giving them no love or shine today. It's all about the ESPN broadcast featuring the two fights that they had on their air for us. The main event being Herring versus Frampton. So with no further delay. I forgot to acknowledge more people in the chat. I'm sorry. We got, it's jumping around. BBG is out there. He says, salute Big Stormy. Salute to you, BBG. And everybody else is saluting one another. Okay. So we're here. Yeah. Let's just say it like this, man. This fight between Herring and Frampton was one of those bouts that even myself, I was not leaning in full support of Jamel Herring. And I have to honestly say that. Jamel Herring has shown me some things in his past couple of fights, particularly the last fight where he dropped out of contention in there and looked for the ref to help him out. And he found out that, he might have been ahead on the scorecards. And so he didn't want to continue to fight after the cut over the eye, which was kind of a really bad look for him, being the champion and everything. And being that the fight got a little rougher and tougher than he may have been comfortable with. But the consensus since then has people been questioning his heart, questioning whether or not his efforts are, on par with someone who wants to reign as a not only a titleist but a champion. Tonight he was able to persevere even when presented some problems during the fight. Technical wise, I thought that he was definitely superior, but I felt like if Frampton was able to turn up the heat on him, I wasn't as certain how he would fare. And if he allowed the fight to go the distance, funny scorecards could come into play. But that was not to be. And what we saw was a fight between a former two-division champion trying again to move up against a fighter who needed a name in the ring with him, even though Frampton was literally the smaller man in there, not just in stature, but as far as that physical presence and everything with the approach to the fight. And there were, again, like I said, some issues presented to Herring in there. When I looked at them, I had commented in the chat, I said, this guy has now let Frampton inside. When you got a guy that has that much of a reach advantage, and you have a guy who has that much of a height advantage, why are you giving up your height? When I saw that on the inside, when Frampton was able to get close to Jamel Herring, he was doing typical experienced fighter things. He was using his elbows. He was raking his gloves across his face. Wherever that cut was, Frampton was going for it. He was doing some things and hopefully getting to a point where he felt he could rattle Herring, because it's obvious that Frampton had heard the things that had been said in post the Oquendo fight against Herring. And if that lit a fire under Jamel Herring, great. That's what we're here for, because we want to see you put forth the most sincere of efforts. And if it takes us putting you to task and questioning your sincere efforts and everything, and you respond in kind, we've done our job, because you've provided the entertainment that we, at the end of the day, craved. And salute to Jamel Herring for that. But as I saw this fight unfold, what I noticed immediately was that Frampton was going to have to try to get on the inside, because there is no way that jab and that straight left coming from the distance that Herring could throw it would be not there for Herring all night long. So you saw Frampton crouching and trying to roll and slip inside and everything, and then the cut opened up again. I'm like, holy crap, man. This is because the only thing I could think about was the fight against Oquendo, where Oquendo, once the cut opened up and he started getting roughhouse with Herring, Herring didn't respond to that very well. But check this out. For those who listen to STORMYBMAN's channel and my other shows and everything, the Oquendo fight helped Herring for this fight. Going through those trials, going through those discomforts and being in a difficult situation, and hearing the outpour of sentiment afterwards in how he handled it, or his lack of handling it properly as a warrior, right, in the sport. Now Herring was able to bring that into this fight, and it was of no consequence that he was still able to deal with that and deal with the opponent at hand, even though Frampton is a better fighter than Oquendo was. But see, this is what we call for all the time. This is why fighters have to fight fights. They have to go through things. They have to go through trials. They have to get tagged on the chin, get rocked. They have to get knocked down. They have to get up to fight back. They have to suffer cuts and injuries to come back and overcome and persevere. They have to take a loss sometimes. All of this is what we talk about on the channel all the time, not because we just want to see someone at a disadvantage or we want to see someone have something bad happen, but it's because it's a part of the sport. And when you have your fighter, I got you, Hustler Slim. When you have your favorite fighter out there and they're dealing with these matters, what happens is it gives them something to persevere and to pull through with. And that makes a difference, because when a fighter doesn't have that and then he's taken to task, let's just say when he's in the biggest fight of his life or something like that, that's a bad time to have to deal with that. You see what I'm saying? Because under those circumstances, that's when a guy can be like, oh, what do I do now? And he's got all of this doubt that comes up in his head, and he's looking to try to figure a way and this and that. And I'll tell you, it can be difficult under the lights when it happens. But when you bring that out there, you have to have that experience to go on. When you don't have it to go on, that's when you run into those troubles. And I'll tell you, Mr. Herring, I saw it as the fight progressed and he began to have his success. It was because he went through what he went through prior. I'm trying to multitask here. So, yeah, that being said, good victory. Now, let me go back to the chat for a moment and acknowledge some more folks that have come in here. It's moved around on me a little bit, and forgive me if I missed anybody. We got BBG out there. He says, Keyshawn look good. Hustler Slim says, Chi-Town's finest, salute. Good doctor, Stormy B-Man, salute. And salute to Mark Nash. And Chi-Town Finest says, right, Stormy, that's why I doubted him. Yes, a lot of people doubted him. And that doesn't mean when you doubt the person that you want them to lose or something. You just want to see them overcome. You want to see them do better, get better, huh? And salute to Hustler Slim out there in that PayPal. He says, Hustler Slim dropping a nugget in the batter. Cool. So appreciate that, Hustler Slim. Appreciate your donation to the PayPal and to the channel, man. Much respect to you, brother. Yeah, to be able to overcome, persevere. This, when you guys are clamoring to say, like, we want to see the best fight the best, right? We want to see the best fights available. Champions fighting champions, contenders fighting champions, contenders fighting one another. This is what you're calling for in the sport. And oftentimes you can either get a very competitive fight where the margin of separation may be close, or the separation can be wide. In this instance, the KO made this a definitive victory for Herring, which is what he needed. And that's what you can call for when you're asking for the best to fight one another in the sport. Back to the chat. Hustler Slim says, I didn't realize it was such a height difference. Yeah, size difference. Yes, sir. Canadian Maple fan says, action-packed fight, Stormy B. Yes, it was. And that's what we asked for when quality fighters are fighting one another. Roderick Frilot is saying, salute, brothers. Salute to you. Sylvestrial says, Herring beat him pretty badly. I won't say that he beat him pretty badly. It was a competitive fight until the knockout. The uppercut came out of nowhere almost, right? And Frampton didn't see it. And that's why it looked like he was falling in slow motion. If you remember when he got tagged with it, it looked like he, you know, everything else was moving in real time, but Frampton. If you ever saw that movie Inception, when they had stuff happening and then the people go into that slow-mo mode, that was Frampton going down from that uppercut while Herring was like stepping back looking like, I hit him, you know. It was really weird. And the fight was pretty much over at that point because he hit him so cleanly with a shot that he didn't see. But kudos to Frampton getting up, trying to resume the battle. See, that's championship spirit. When you have a guy that's willing to put forth the effort. Frampton could have laid there and said, oh, I'm out, you know. But he didn't. He tried to get up and tried to fight back. That is something that you have to commend. We got more in the chat. Terry Smoot Jr. says, salute, Sensei. Salute to you, bro. And who else we got here? I'm all over the place with my trying to keep up with everything because I'm on here exclusively and I'm trying to pay attention to the chat as well. Sylvester says, I was a bit worried about the cut, but Herring pulled through strong as he started off very well. And see, that's what I was saying, Sylvester, that the fact that Herring went through that cut situation prior to this fight, in his last fight even, it helped him tonight. And you cannot discredit circumstances like that, because that's what helps fighters add to their toolbox. When guys go through some difficulty and they persevere, it gives them a little more confidence in their ability to persevere and to want to persevere. When you haven't never been challenged, you're fighting a series of fighters that you are designated to beat, both on paper, and they're just not supposed to win against you. And if that's all you're fighting, you're never being tested. That's like me giving you a quiz or a test with you, all the answers you know them like the back of your hand. How is that challenging you? If I give you something where you have to think and try to remember and go over and have to go back and research for yourself or something to put in some type of effort and work, then you can come back. And even if you get something wrong, going through the process of researching and trying to find for yourself benefits you. Okay? Not just being given the answers to the quiz or whatever. So, Chi-Town's Finest saying smash that like button. Yes, sir. Trying to get to, we got some more people out here. I got that, got Hustler Slim on the PayPal. Sylvester saying realness. Trap House Boxing, my brothers out there, says, what's up, Sensei? You owe Herring a huge apology. I don't owe Herring a huge nothing. Trap House Boxing, excuse you, brother. Just because I make an assessment of what I can foresee for myself, Herring owes himself an apology for the way he behaved in his fight against Okendo. Because when he fought through it in this fight, what he was supposed to learn, and he did learn, is, oh, that wasn't so bad. I can still fight because I got hurt. It's like when you're a child and you fall down and your mama run over there and pick you up because you crying. Oh, you crying and everything. Your mama rub you and, she kiss you. Oh, baby, it's going to be all right. So then when you fall again, you looking around for mama. And when they see that you fall, you go to crying, and here they come again. That's how you know that you playing the game. Okay, but what do your dad do after you fell that first time? Don't look at him. Don't even, because if you pretend like you didn't see it, he ain't gonna cry. And you fall down and you look around and everybody's still going about what they doing and they don't acknowledge that you fell. You get up, dust yourself off, and keep on playing. Anybody who's a parent understands that because they've gone through that. So that be the same analogy, okay, for what Mr. Herring found out. Oh, it ain't that bad. I can still fight. Yes, so fight. The reason that I made my determinations of how I thought things may go were simply based on how he behaved before. Now, if he continued to behave under that auspice, then of course you are correct. But he grew up. Yes, at 35, you could still improve. And he improved enough to continue to fight through and weather the storm that had come to him. And then he realized, I can still do something. And guess what came out of that? That uppercut. Which, by the way, I believe is Jamel Herring's best punch. Because he throws it at a sneaky angle. He gets it up there. And it's quick, sharp, and he throws it on time. So I believe that may be his best punch. That uppercut. So whoever's gonna fight Herring out there in the future, you guys better be mindful of that uppercut because he could take you out. He had Okendo down early in that fight. I think the 3rd or 4th round when he was facing him with that uppercut. Chi-Town's Finest says, all truth. And at Trap House Boxing Family, he said, blessed to see you. Pray all is well in Florida. And just don't eat that Godzilla meat. And peace and love to you and your household. Yeah, I added the Godzilla meat part. BBG is out there, says, great win. Frampton never been stopped. Yeah, man, he was there to be knocked out, especially with the size, height, reach advantage that Herring possessed. All he had to do was box from that outside and catch him coming in. When he started letting Frampton get inside and then the cut happened, I was starting to doubt him, man. I really, even more, because I'm like, where's the discipline to keep the guy at the end of your punches? But here, lo and behold, he threw the correct shot at the correct time. And he got the correct results out of it. And you still have to give Frampton credit for trying to continue to fight. It was his corner that stopped the fight by throwing a towel in. It wasn't himself. He was trying to fight back, even though he had no more legs, even though he was in a position to be stopped. He was trying. That's all you can ask, you know, because sometimes a guy can throw a hope to hell punch and it lands, and then everything else gets turned around again. That's the funny thing about the sport of boxing. And you have to respect your peers in there. We got Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens out there in the chat. He says, salute my peoples. Reggie, are you available to come on, or are you going to stay out there? Let's see. Trap House says, salute to the chat. Xena360 says, I didn't give Frampton a round. Let's see how I scored it. It's still fresh off my head. I gave Frampton the 4th round, where he, you know, the cut opened up and he had some advantages in there. That was the 1 round I had given him. And in the 5th round was when Herring got a knockdown, you know, it's clean knockdown. He dropped him, and then he stopped him in the 6th. So I guess you could say Frampton's aggression probably got him knocked out. What he may wanted to do is kind of keep the things going till you got to the midpoint of the fight, which is the 6th round. Okay? And then pick up doing some other things, because fatigue makes cowards out of men. If you get that guy beyond that 6th round, he's not as sharp. He's, you know, fatigue is starting to set in. He may become a little complacent or lax, and that's when you could start implementing some other things. But I could understand Frampton wanting to start things faster, because being at a height difference and deficit and everything like that, you want a guy to be able to take heed to the fact of what he's dealing with being compromised. But see, that's where boxing skill comes in. The rolling and bobbing and weaving that Frampton was doing, that was okay, but it wasn't coupled behind boxing technique. Okay? When you made mid-range, you were supposed to be firing shots at Herring's chest. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So if you could jab him to the chest, if you could hit that chest, and you slip offline for any counter, then you work the body, tie him up on the inside, wait for the ref to break you, reset, start again. But once you've made it past that mid-range point, you are supposed to throw certain types of shots. And hooking, looping shots are not the ones. The only hooking and looping shot that could work on the inside is if you've gotten a guy to compromise his height by trying to dip with you, you come over the top with a looping punch. Over the top, because that's the one that they don't usually see. And if you're a guy that keeps that high guard, you can shoot the shots from your chin as well. They don't see those as fast. So understand that technically that's how you do it. But again, we're not in a technical era of boxing. There's not a lot of guys who use technique. They just try to go for it in the manner of which whatever it is they do well, They only hide behind that. That's why talking about making adjustments on the fly. That's why trying to have where you strategy, tactics, that's where that comes into play, and it's important. So I want to salute my two brothers that popped in with me. Reggie Owens is here now, Boxing Conversations. He's here. And also the brother Curtis Anderson is here with us. And we're going to talk some more about this now that we got these two brothers on here. What's going on, guys? Reggie and Kurt.
Hey, salute, chat, salute, Reggie, salute, Stormy. What's going on, fellas?
Oh, chilling. Salute to you as well, OGs.
Yeah, man, good to have you guys here. We had a fight finally between, two, we can consider them high caliber fighters in this present era. That was exciting. It had an exciting finish, at least. And I wanted to get you guys viewpoints on what you were able to see between this fight between Jamel Herring and Carl Frampton. I'll start with you, Reggie.
Man, I got to give it up to Jamel Herring, man. He shocked me, and I based my valuation on yesterday and the thoughts on how this fight would turn out. I had the fight going for Carl Frampton, and I thought Frampton would come with the same style that was effective for Jonathan Oquendo, and not taking into consideration of what Herring could have learned from that fight, what improvements Herring could have went in, and what things Bomac and him seeing from him fighting such a short fighter, which Carl Frampton is nothing more than a half an inch, 1 inch taller than the last dude. So what would Frampton come in here? And they tuned everything up because this dude he frustrate the heck out of Carl Frampton. Carl Frampton had a hard time in like the first 3 rounds trying to figure a way to get on the inside, because I had Jamel winning the first 3 rounds easily, utilizing his jab work. He going in that second round, he began to really touch up on Carl Frampton, mixing his punches up. He worked well with those hooks to the body. He was throwing a couple of these uppercuts. Those uppercuts, he began to kind of see where he needed to throw them, seeing what tendencies Frampton had of doing, because Frampton started trying to duck up under because that jab was coming at him. And also that jab was coming over, some of them lefts was coming over the top. Some of those right hands was coming over the top, him trying to duck out the way of him. So, but in that 4th round, man, Herring I thought let the fight kind of slip. I was like, oh, here we go. Here come a momentum shift. And Frampton was able to get on the inside easy with him from round 4, opening the cut as well. I thought that was going to be an issue. And to my surprise, Herring didn't even worry about the blood. He just fought his way through. He performed like a champion tonight versus like the other fight against Oquendo. He performed like someone less than a champion. He didn't worry about that blood. He got in that corner, let the corner worry about it. They told him to make the adjustments, but then Frampton still come out there, still able to get on the inside, being a little bit too aggressive, not keeping himself clean. He was too offensive minded, as he was figuring he was behind on the cards by those 3 rounds and needing to pick it up. He walked right into that straight left from Herring. Herring was so smooth with what he was delivering. That was a solid straight left down the middle. And then to see when Frampton makes the count, he doesn't rush in there to go after him. He took his time with him. Still, let me break this dude down. Still early in the fight. I don't want to throw everything at this guy and deplete myself trying to throw everything but the kitchen sink at the guy. And then that round 4 is where round 5 is where he caught Frampton and dropped him. Round 6, he catches Frampton with that uppercut. And like you were saying, man, he dropped like that movie. Because I did a little quick post-fight video. I was saying that same thing about the Inception movie where they sit in that chair and just falling black. He fell back so slow. I don't know if he was knocked out in that moment. And then just to see how powerful that punch was to watch Frampton try to get up to his feet, and he realized he couldn't. So he did the intelligent thing, being he's a fighter with experience. He took his time, let that count go all the way up to like 8 or 9 before he got to his feet to buy himself some time, because he really wanted to fight. And he just wasn't there. That punch really just clobbered him. And try to fight his way out of there, but Herring was just too pinpoint with punches. But all in all, great performance by Herring.
Yes, sir. How about you, Kurt?
Well, I picked Frampton by UD because I went by Herring's last performance. It wasn't a good one. You could only go by what you seen before the last fight. And Herring, he fought pretty well, even though I thought the fight was going to turn when he got the cut. I was kind of nervous for him, but, he fought well. He threw a beautiful uppercut. Uppercut thrown at the right time is indefensible because it's coming from the bottom, especially when you throw straight punches and hooks, because straight punches coming down the pipe, hooks are coming around, and when you throw an uppercut, the fighter don't see it. And Herring fought pretty good. It was a pretty good performance. Frampton problem was, as a short man, you can't fight a lanky fighter from mid-range because scientifically, you're not going to be able to win the fight. He's going to hit you before you hit him. You have to be in close. You can't fight him long range because you don't have the reach. You're going to have to fight him in close. When you look at Joe Frazier or Rocky Marciano, they was in close against their opponents. That's why as short fighter and fighting a tall fighter, they had success. Because now it's just like fighting a blind man in the dark, you in his element. So just like a short fighter, once you close the distance, you take away the taller fighter's reach. And that's what Frampton didn't do. He fought mid-range, which is the wrong distance, and he got caught with the uppercut. And plus, he was open for many punches. The straight left would have worked. Herring, I would like him to be more offensive and show more of a killer instinct. I mean, today he did what he had to do, so you can't, criticize him because he got the knockout against a world-class former champion and world-class fighter in Frampton, and I didn't see that coming because I picked Frampton by UD. First I said Herring was caught on the stool, and then I said, no, I said Frampton will win by UD. But, boxing, you can never predict. It's hard to predict. And, he won by knockout in 6. So I want to see where Herring goes from here. He's not going to fight Shakur because they're good friends. Maybe he'll have one more fight at 130, then move up to 135, vacate the title so Shakur can get it, and Frampton announces retirement. But it was a good fight. It was a good showing by Herring.
Yeah, and to what both of you gentlemen were saying, that's why I offered up. See, you never know until a guy has gone through some trials, right? You never know. And in this instance, the trial for Herring was the audience and fan response to his fight against Oquendo. He had to deal with that. He had to suck that up, and he had to come to a place where he knows that if something like that ever happened again, and who knew it would have been in the very next fight, that he has to handle it a different way next time. But you see, we talk about this all the time. It's when a fighter goes through. Now imagine had he responded in this fight like he did in the last fight with Oquendo. And once he got cut, he started like looking to the ref and stuff like that. Then you know that he's a man who hasn't taken the proper stock in his career. And as I opened the show saying this, I stated that if the way the fans responded to him in the Oquendo fight and how it ended and how he behaved or misbehaved, and he took solace and stock in that and vowed within himself, because you know he's not going to talk about that publicly, right? If he vowed within himself, well, I'll show them. Good. That's why we say what we say. And that's why I stated to Brother Trap House Boxing out there, I don't owe him an apology. You know, when you Trap House, this message is strictly for Trap House because he'll understand what I'm saying. When you watch the old Kung Fu movies and the master tells his pupil, you're not worth a piece of crap. And the pupil has to go work hard to disprove the master. And then sometimes later in the third act of the film, the pupil rises. He ends up having to save the master and everything. And he defeats the bad guy and everything. And the master says, oh, you did well, you know, but you still need a little work on such and such. That's how the movie is. This is what we're talking about here. Understand specifically, and I can speak only for myself. When I'm being critical, it's not trying to tear someone down. Never, ever that. But I could see the room for improvement, and he improved in the aspect of dealing with adversity. He was cut once again. He remained focused, and he fought through it. And shortly after being cut, he knocked the guy out. Imagine what this is going to do to his confidence going forward. You see? But also imagine, had the cut only happened in this fight, but not the Oquendo fight, would he have responded against Frampton like he did against Oquendo? That would be a very bad thing. But because he was in familiar waters, he was able to bring the ship to the dock. Huh? What do you think about that, Reggie?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And nothing's wrong, man. From my opinion, I see nothing wrong in being wrong in an assessment. And that's what the sport is supposed to be about, is to prove you wrong. When you make an assessment, is for that fighter to go in there, because you can only assess a fighter from his last showing. You're only as good as your last win, your last loss. And his last win wasn't that good of a win. So it drew in the question of where his heart was. So the perfect evaluation is to see things as they are. And it's for that fighter to go inside of the lab, be in the gym, and to work on these things. And that's the one thing, like you were saying with the Kung Fu movie, is saying you ain't worth crap. And it's not to really tear the guy down, but it's to let that guy take those words and use them. Either those words are going to make him or break him. And the same thing with Herring's performance. And even those close with him, like even Tim Bradley, who I think has a relationship with him, even told him, Andre Ward to tell him the same thing. That performance was trash. You quit. And it's for him to go in here. And he took those words. He took those words as he was supposed to. He took it as constructive criticism. And there's nothing wrong with making an assessment. You can't be right in everything. And just because a fighter goes in there and prove it, because you said one thing, doesn't make you wrong for making an assessment. That's what this game of boxing is supposed to be about. It shouldn't be where everything is just predictable and you're right on everything. Like, nah, we're going to be wrong on some things. We're going to be right. But I like everyone was assessing it based on Herring quitting in that last fight to retain the title and going in here against a tough, experienced guy like Frampton. And I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be. But that's my thoughts on that.
And how about you, Kurt? What are your thoughts on what I had to say in the way I explained that?
Well, experience is the best teacher, and it's better happened for him once. It's something he never experienced, having to cut that bad. And even Tim Bradley was critical. I was very critical of Herring. And he said it. I don't know if you guys saw the post-interview where he said people was calling me names. They was critical of me, you know, in my last fight. And he proved us wrong. He proved me wrong because I picked against him. You know, like I said, I like seeing fighters offensive. And I thought he was going to let Frampton back in the fight when he lost the fourth round. But he swung the momentum back in his favor. And you know what they say, experience is the best teacher. meaning he experienced having a bad cut, and he said to himself, listen, I can't afford to have the same mindset in this fight that I had the last fight. You know, I'm going to lose my title. And he sucked it up. He went out there, and he didn't have to go very long. He got the knockout. It was a beautiful uppercut where he clipped Frampton, and to Frampton's credit, he tried to fight. He didn't have legs. He was hurt, wobbling around the ring, and the corner threw in the towel, and Herring, you know, retained his title, and he did it, you know, abroad. He did it in Dubai. And I just picked against him because the last fight, he was fighting abroad. He's fighting an experienced fighter. But, you know, he proved a lot of people wrong, including myself. And, you know, congratulations to Herring. This was his best showing. Yeah, hey, that's not bad on your resume, knocking out Carl Frampton. Frampton is a tough cookie, man. And, you know, he got the win.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole thing about, you know, having gone through something, Jamel Herring will be much better in his next outing for this type of a victory. And having come back, like Kirk said, he saw him saying in the post-fight, people were calling him names and saying things or whatever. And that's also a sign of something, you know, under the hood, for him to take that and to use it to his advantage and say, hey, that's a motivating factor for me. I'll show you. Don't we always say, prove me wrong? I mean, that's the whole thing. And when we're talking about being competitive in the sport of boxing, the prove me wrong factor is not there to wag your finger in someone's face. It's to actually try to pull the best out of the guy, to compete in a manner of which you want to get behind them and you want to say, yeah, do it, you know, that kind of thing. And that's why you heard me also within this, and I'll throw the question at you two brothers to give your take on it. I give Frampton credit for trying to fight through being knocked out, because he was knocked out, brother, and he was trying to fight back. He could have easily laid on that canvas, took a 10 count, and be counted out. But he didn't. And even when he rolled over and got up on his knee, he took that count up to 8.5 before he stood on up, because he was trying to summon as much of his forces as possible, because he knew he was in bad shape. How many times have you seen a guy just lay out? You have to give credit to that man. We don't want to see anybody hurt, but we would love to see them show the best of the metal that they have that's within themselves. And that's all we ask for. Reggie, what are your thoughts on that aspect of Frampton trying to fight and the corner had to save him from himself?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that warrior spirit. But to that one, man, I give more credit to that corner. I give a ton of credit to that corner for them stopping that fight, throwing in that towel, and also seeing how pissed Frampton was when he turned. He saw that towel coming there. You know, he's battered and bruised and still, like, you know, he was confused as well. His mind wasn't fully cleared. And him turning over, like quickly turning and say no, like he wanted to go at it. But most fighters are going to do that. Most fighters have to be safe for themselves. Basically what I want to say, and that corner did the appropriate thing in stopping that fight. They can see it. The fighter just can't see it. Sometimes the outside perspective is a better perspective than what the fighter has. And the fighter just having that heart, and they will lie to themselves. Fighters will lie to themselves all dang day. And a corner has to do it. And I appreciate that corner for doing that, because Herring's just going to mix him up and probably put his lights out, which had been unnecessary. And it was good to hear him call that announcement. But hopefully you go into, also, I had an issue with that announcer post of this fight as well. But I think the corner did a great job in stopping that fight. But it's just the heart of Carl Frampton. He made no excuses, and I like his post fight as well.
And Kurt, what are your thoughts regarding that with Frampton?
Yeah, well, like Reggie said, he was right. I give credit to the corner because, sometimes you got to save a fighter from themselves. I'd rather for it to stop one punch too early than one punch too late, but this was a good stoppage. Frampton was out of it. He was wobbling around the ring, and you don't really see the impact of the punches only when it's in slow motion. You'd be like, man, he got hit a lot more times than I thought. When he got hit on top of the head, I think with a straight right or left that was solid, and it bothered him and it wobbled him again. And it was very good that the corner stopped it, because the guy Frampton who's experienced and who been in some good fights with Santa Cruz and Warrington, he didn't deserve it. And he said he was going to retire, and he went on his shield. Everybody can't be undefeated. You're going to lose a few. It's boxing. When you fight good fighters, you eventually lose. It's the nature of the sport. He just faced a guy who was a pretty good boxer, but he couldn't overcome the size and the length of Jamal Herring, and that was his downfall. And he said that he had a good game plan, talking about Herring. And sometimes, it's not what you did wrong, but what the other guy did right. And that proves to be, the coup de grace at the end. And, Frampton was a good fighter. He would go down as one of Ireland's best. And sometimes, man, you just got to be like, hey, I had a good career, and I did my best.
Yes, sir. And I want to give a salute out there in the Cash App for Eric Jenkins. He says, Stormy B, man, your view is always on point. Salute to you, man, and thank you for the donation to the channel, man. What we try to do is just bring it from a crystal clear view that there are no certainties. The only certainty is that there are no certainties. You just don't know how things will go. But I'm smiling at some of the comments that I'm seeing in the chat now, like that are far different from comments that Herring got after his disqualifying victory over Kendo. Silvestro just the last comment said Herring gave him that work. See, fans are fickle and they'll turn. But when you put forth an effort and you're successful, they really get behind you. If you put forth the effort and it's sincere, they'll be behind you on that. But if you look like you dogging it, if you look like you trying to pack it in, if you trying to escape out the back door or something, there's always somebody to grab you by your collar and be like, hey, where you going? You gonna get this work. You understand? So I love that. And that's growth. But always understand that the axis, what sits upon it can turn. That's all you need to know. The knowledge that comes with boxing and going through experiences is a lot like what you go through in life, huh? You might have had a girlfriend that broke up with you and you thought you was gonna die because your little heart was hurt and she went on with some other dude. Then you met somebody else and you was okay, or at least you should have been, because it happens like that. You might break one of their hearts and they think the world is over because you left them, huh? But then, they find somebody else and they forget about you. That's a natural process. So to see a guy grow up in one fight and come out and fight a very good fight and get a very good result out of his efforts, that's all we could ask for. You know what I mean? Now, what would really be great is, and Kurt, I'll throw the same question to you when I finish making this statement. What would really be great is if he hunkered down, manned up and said, I want to defend the title against Shakur. Now that right there would be awesome. And win, lose, or draw, he would definitely have my support for just making a decision like that. What do you think, Kurt?
Yeah, I mean, friends fought before. I heard they really close friends, and I doubt it. He called out Valdez, but I figure he may fight one more fight at 130 against a stay busy opponent, and then go up to 135. That's what my gut instincts is telling me, and he'll vacate his title, and maybe Shakur can pick it up if he fight whoever he fights. That's what I'm guessing. Simon Brown, Maurice Blocker, they fought. They was real good friends, but, it doesn't happen because of that. This is business. And Shakur wrote a tweet. He said he's rooting for Herring, but for business, he wants Frampton to win while the fight was going on. That's what he said. That would be a good fight, but I truly believe Shakur will beat Herring. But if Herring fights smart, because that's what the sweet science is all about, boxing, he could be a problem because he's so big for that weight division if he fights behind the jab. And see, I was always rough on Herring, Adrian Broner, who else? Robert Easter, because I know they have talent, but they don't always fight to their true potential. And they fight a dumb fight with low boxing IQ. And today Herring proves that if he could put it together and fight smart like he did, he threw an uppercut against the shorter fighter, and you've seen the results. So that bodes well for certain fighters. When I seen him in the ring, like a Robert Easter, and he fights like a small man where he has, length, and you fight behind the jab when you have that length and you have the reach. It's elementary, my dear Watson, but all fighters don't listen to themselves or listen to their corner. So, but Herring did. He fought well. Bomac gave him instructions. I like the check hook he was throwing when Hampton was coming in. So, this is the result when you fight smart.
And how about you, Reggie? What are your thoughts about that? If he were to make that determination and say, hey, I'm going to fight Shakur because I could get a better payday, it would give me a different type of challenge, that type of thing. Even though, like Kurt said, it may not happen. What are your thoughts regarding a possibility of that?
I mean, I understand they close friend. That's a hard one, but they're fighters. They have to get in the ring to make money with each other. But I think with he can avoid that Shakur fight for a while because there's other champions out there. I think Valdez is one of the hot names that's out there right now based on what he did in his last performance, earning him a title. I don't even know if Shakur has a title yet, but he go after Valdez. It's a big fight. Contrasting fan bases, and they'll have a big draw. This is a lot of names out there. You got Tank Davis down in the division. I believe that's where he's going to be at. He can go after that. Shakur can go after that. They can make their other maneuvers without having to fight each other at this point until they meet that course where the road ends and they're both there. They can do that. Being if that's a friendship, I know they're all tight connected circles and stuff. That's always a hard thing. It's why friends try to avoid each other. It's why people tend to not want to make friendships in the sport of boxing. But when they happen, friends try to avoid fighting each other until they come to that point. Then you have to help each other make money. But there's so much competition in that division. They can go about setting their own paths and success in there. And Herring may end up moving because I heard him saying something about him being able to make weight at the 130 division. So he may be at 135. But I think Shakur fight him. I don't know if Shakur is willing to fight him or whatnot, but there's another champion he can avoid the Shakur fight, and he may end up taking that route because he didn't bring Shakur up based on their friendships and not want to call him out like that.
Yeah, and let's just say if he did move forward and fought one of the other champions and was able to get at least 2 titles, or even become a unified champion with multiple titles, then a Shakur fight would be even more lucrative, You know, if Shakur isn't able to lift the title off of someone else, if he remains at that weight class. But nonetheless, you know, there are options on the table for this man now. And it doesn't appear to be a hard fight to make because they're on Top Rank. And it may be time to put that in NBF to task, huh? And make these guys get in there and rumble. Since Top Rank say they don't have no money, they can draw in some money by stop this foolishness of not allowing fighters to face one another and let them get on in there and get that work, as guys like to say now. So that's one way of looking at it. Hustler Slim out there in the chat says that Valdez fight would be good to make next. They both have belts and both are coming off big wins. Yeah, but the thing about boxing today, Hustler Slim, is the powers that be in boxing are so adept at not allowing the hottest fights happen. I don't know what is wrong with that. Curtis talked about it. Reggie and I have discussed it on the shows and stuff. It's like they blow these chances to really make fights that are hot because fighters have fought, had great efforts, great results, and now this is on the horizon, and they go the other way, and it's like, what? And you know that they don't even have that type of vision. It kind of reminds me of like what I've seen in Hollywood with like Warner Brothers Studios. They were sitting on this huge franchise that had drew a great audience with that director, Zack Snyder, right? And for whatever reason, those executives don't like the guy, but he's a director under their company, but they don't like the guy, so they continue to crap on his productions and stuff like that. And the fans have gotten involved to the point like they're forcing their hand, but it's like they can't even see that the guy has a following. It's like, just since you're about money anyway, give them what they want. It's like you benefit because you get the proceeds. But some people just don't live that way, man. They want to be honorary and be like what Bob Arum has said, F the fans and kick rocks and all of that foolishness. It's like it just boggles my mind. Kurt, what are your thoughts on that as well?
Well, I'm just, disgusted how we could have a golden era in boxing and, two fighters, they start jawing at each other via social media, and then the fans get hype and here's some nonsense like, they're going to fight in, let's say August, and, you thinking, it's going to be signed shortly, and then the fight don't happen. Not only that, but you don't hear nothing about it. Look at Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. Remember how everybody was playing it up, and Devin Haney and Gary Russell, and you don't hear a word of either fight. And it's very frustrating because we have the fighters to make a golden era, but they refuse to fight. It's like two dogs barking at each other, and there's a gate between them, and you open the gate, and nobody's taking a forward step. So it's just all bark and no bite, excuse the pun, but that's the truth. And that's fighters. And we complain, we have a right to complain because we support them, we spend money. We spend money with cable, we stream fights, we spend money pay-per-view, we buy memorabilia, we could be doing other things. We have platforms where we bring these guys' names up, so we have power as fans, and we demand the best fights, but we don't get them. And their careers, they waste, fights where they can make a lot of money that would draw interest in boxing, and it doesn't happen. So it's their fault. When two fighters want to fight, he will go to a promoter or whoever he has to go to, the powers that be, and force the fight. but they're not doing that. And I want to see Teofimo and Haney. I want to see these fights. I want to see a rematch with Lomachenko or Teofimo, but it's not going to happen. And a lot of fights we thought would happen at lightweight, we're not going to get because they're going to lead the division. And the one fight we all want to see might not happen. It's Crawford and Spence. And that will be disgusting if that fight doesn't happen. But it's reality. It is what goes on in 2021. That's the saga of boxing in 2021. We're going to get some good fights. We had Chocolatito and Estrada. We're going to get Taylor Ramirez. But we need that super fight. And we need big and super fights on a regular basis. That's how you draw interest in the sport, and we're not getting that.
Yeah, and it's a shame, man, because as you were saying, it's a thing that it's right there. It's like you could touch it, and they don't let it happen, man. It's a disgrace. Reggie, I saw your message in the chat. You're back now. What are your thoughts about what Kurt was just commenting on about these, because you and I have talked about it at length, about not making the fights when they're hot and, not giving the fans what they want and stuff like that. And it's like how they just hurt the sport of boxing and even their own wallets by not making it happen.
Yeah, I think it's bad. I don't know, misjudgment by these fighters. And a lot of these fighters don't have thoughts of what they build for themselves down the line as they age. How do they want to be remembered? A lot of these dudes don't have that. They just live for today. They can think two craps about tomorrow. What happens in the old age? What will be the appreciation that people have? Like you going into this field, you should want people to appreciate you. In order for people to appreciate you, you have to also deliver something as well. Fans should be receiving something, and those are good fights. Those are should be respect for fans as well as fans respect towards fighters. But when that's not giving, down the line, these folks will be written off, and I think that's one of the most disheartening things for a fighter as they age. Young folks, period, don't see these things. They don't appreciate these things because they're just living in their moment, in their world, in their now. But they get hit smack dabbed in the face, being humbled, and also I don't know, dealing with it's you see a lot of these athletes who deal with, like even Riddick Bowe. I was listening to some streams and people were speaking about how Riddick Bowe was an unnoticed guy. People didn't recognize Riddick Bowe. He's traveling on like a city bus or whatnot, and and a lot of this is all in part from what he didn't do with the Lennox Lewis fight. Yeah, he had the great trilogies against Evander Holyfield, but what else did he offer to the sport? You have a guy like Mike Tyson who went out there, whether win, lose, or draw. He put on the fights. He fought the folks that fans wanted to see, and he still carries his weight. The same thing with Roy Jones. These fighters today, they think that when they become the stars and become the faces of a division or whatever they're doing, they pull back on the reins. Their hunger dies off. And also with that hunger, fans clamoring for wanting to see them begins to fade. And it's always new players in this game. When these dudes, I don't know if these dudes think the sports die when they leave the game. And that's just a miscalculation on their part. There's always a new face to take over. And it's up to that new face if they're going to do the right things to carry the helm of the sport. And also thinking about where do they want to take the sport of boxing, as well as where do they want to take themselves, especially if they think of themselves as a brand. And how do you see yourself being viewed by generations that come down the line? Are you somebody that someone goes back to watch who's coming into the sport? Let me watch this guy, watch film on him. This is a guy who inspires me to get on the sport. A lot of these dudes today currently ain't going to inspire crap from new fighters. These new fighters are going to still look at footage from older people. I can't think of one fighter who will be an inspiration to up and coming fighters. I could probably say Terrence. I can say Earl. Who else? Shakur may be able to do it. And really, that's the crappy thing. And then also with this sport, boxing has competitions. Boxing competes with other sports, especially on the American side of things. And boxing has gone through these up and down cycles. And most of the cycles have been downward trending cycles because of what fighters have not given to the sport, what trainers haven't given to fighters to position them to deliver great performances in the sport. And then you see fighters, when they seen Floyd, who did everything properly to earn the high levels of money that is out there in the sport, these other guys bypass everything he did to just try to chase after the money, act with this certain level of bravado and entitlement, and they're collapsing the game once again. And now you got MMA, which is most fight fans are going to be fans of MMA. Now they have the options of saying, well, these fighters don't want to fight. They're picking and choosing this. The heck with this. I'm just going to watch MMA fights. And now you have everything being scheduled on the same days. Now how do you compete? And this is what these fighters are running into. And even these networks are running into, to where now networks are, boxing is competing with networks, bringing MMA over there as well. So like Showtime, the Showtime starts to kick aside some of their boxing dates to give more dates to MMA. That's these fighters' fault. Ain't got nothing to do with these networks. These networks have to run a business, and when these fighters ain't delivering, they'll get rid of you. And even these fighters forget, because they don't study nothing. They don't study history. They don't study nothing. They're just dumb to the facts. And even with the networks did away with boxing, and they'll do away with it again because they have another competitor that's going up against boxing. And these fools need to wake up from that, because it's business when these networks need to showcase, and you need these networks. That's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and those were pretty good sentiments that you put out, man. You mentioned Riddick Bowe. The irony is, it was just a couple days ago, I think, on Blue's channel. Shout out to Blue Blood Sports TV, where he was talking with Kurt about Riddick Bowe. And he was talking about Riddick Bowe, presently chasing Lennox Lewis around at events where they happen to be together, and challenging Lennox and talking stuff to him and everything, when they are both well into retirement. And Lennox just kind of brushed him off like, whatever, man, because it's like, you had a chance to fight me back in 1992, 93, whatever it was, and you threw the belt in the garbage. That was a duck, a huge duck. But not only did you duck the fight, you ducked legacy, and you ducked a huge payday, probably which would have been his richest payday in his career, because he was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world at that time, and he was going to get the lion's share of the purse between he and Lewis, because Lewis was only a #1 contender at that time. And they had signed a pre-fight agreement to face each other. So Bowe listened to his people and said, oh, you can make more money doing some other stuff. And he threw the belt in the garbage. Had a press conference showing it and everything. Him putting the WBC belt in the trash, which is where it really needs to be, by the way. Just put that out there. He put it in the trash, and the WBC awarded Lennox Lewis the title without having to fight for it, just like they did Ken Norton back when Leon Spinks was stripped after defeating Ali and not defending the title against Ken Norton. So Lennox became a champion that way, but later became a champion again by defeating someone for the title. But to say that here he is 30 years later chasing Lennox Lewis around, talking stuff to him, when all he had to do was get in the ring and fight the man then. Lennox is the one who has the shiny legacy, because he fought pretty much everyone and was in great fights. Even though he lost a couple, it's like he still beat the men who beat him. So he actually has one of those rare advantages of having defeated every man he's ever stepped in the ring with. So Bo should be mad. He should be upset, but only at himself, because he didn't do the right thing by stepping out there and facing the challenge at hand. That even if he were victorious, it would have ascended him to even loftier heights than he could imagine. That's all on him. And I hope he hears this. Someone can clip this out and put it on his Instagram or whatever, because it's your fault. And if you guys of today that are champions out there want to do the Riddick Bowe, if you live long enough, you're going to be really doing the Riddick Bowe, behaving like he at public engagements and whatnot, for ducking the guy that you should have fought in your era, who was right there across from you, literally, and you didn't do it. You only have yourself to blame. It's like the guy that never went and asked the girl out, and all those years later, she done had 5 children by some other dude or whatever, and you run across her and say, "Oh, how you doing? It's a long time no see," and this and that, and y'all have a conversation, and you say something like, "I really had a crush on you back in the day," and this and that, and she says, "I wish you would have said something because I liked you too." Mic drop. So, you got anything to add on that, Kurt?
Well, I like the analogy.
Hey, but it's true, right?
Yeah, you can say that, yeah. But yeah, Riddick Bowe, this piggybacking off that, he looks foolish trying to fight with Lennox Lewis today, like he got some kind of grudge or something. It's his fault because you listen to the wrong people. But, these fighters today, like I said, if Spencer Crawford don't happen, man, it's going to be a major blow to the sport of boxing. It's frustrating because, see, we talk about Leonard, Hearns, Duran, and Hagler for a reason, because they fought each other. And by them having legacy-defining fights, it keeps their name afloat for years and years. We're talking 80s. It's 2021, and they're still popular because they fought each other. These fighters is not going to have legacy like that because they won't fight the best. And boxing has a deep-rooted history of big fights because they fought each other. Going back to the turn of the centuries, everybody, they fought each other in eras. This is the first era where it's duck season and this one and that one ain't fighting each other. And, it kind of messes up legacy. So now boxing is at a standstill, and you got the emergence of the UFC, and, because they can't afford to be like boxing. So they have to fight, the best has to fight the best in UFC. But in boxing, it's different because they can kick the fans any which way they want the fans to go. And that's very unfortunate because, like I said, we support the sport. And the sport is not giving us anything to hang our hat on. So, that's all I have to say about that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, guys, we got next week on the horizon another fight that could be a pivotal fight in the career of one rising Jaron Boots Ennis, where he's going to take on Sergey Lipinets. And that's scheduled for next Saturday, April 10th on Showtime. I wanted to ask you, brothers, your thoughts about this fight before we close out this show, of an early idea of how you think things can go with this fight. It's a good fight, I think. Fight worth tuning in to check out. Jaron Boots Ennis is a upcoming fighter who has pretty good hand speed, very good power on his punches and snap on his punches. He appears to be another one of those athletic sorts who can kind of get away with some things, but at the same time, he hasn't been any real step-up fights at this time. And I would consider Lipinets a step-up fight in the sense that he's probably the best challenger that he has faced at this time. And on the undercard, you've got my man, Eimantas Stanionis, taking on Thomas Delorme. Now, that fight right there, guys, is a really good one for your man Stormy B, because I'm high on Stanionis right now. And I notice I say right now because he's looking like the goods, but we'll have to find out as we continue to see the progress of the fighter. So, Kurt, let me throw it at you. What are your thoughts on this fight coming up on the horizon?
Well, you know I'm high on Boots Ennis. Athleticism, natural skill, rhythmic or perpetual motion, I always say is very important. The only thing I want to see with Boots is, does he have intangibles? What happened when he get caught? What happened when he takes a good shot? What happens if he hit the guy don't go nowhere, he has to box? Because he's real aggressive. But as he step up a competition, I got a feeling he's going to start to box more. He's going to have to. Lipinets is a good fighter. You know, he gave Mikey Garcia a good fight, even though he lost. It's a step-up fight. To me, I think it's a coming-out party. I think he's going to dominate and get Lipinets out of there. I just have a feeling he's going to look real good, and I think he's going to turn a lot of heads. Jerron Ennis is coming, but let's wait, because I done seen many fighters who have high skill level and things didn't turn out. Anthony Hembrick and Kelsey Banks and Eddie Hobson, Francisco Bajado was guys who was deemed
Donald Kurt.
Yeah, he achieved short success and his career didn't last long because he quit. He didn't have intangibles. He gave up his undisputed titles on the stool. I'll never forget Donald Curry for that. He quit against Lloyd Huntington in '86. But let's see Jerron Ennis. But I got a good feeling about him because of his pedigree. His father come from a boxing family. But we'll see. And like I always say, that boxing ring is the ultimate truth serum. But I think he's going to take care of business next Saturday. Plus, ESPN, we got Joe Smith Jr. fighting. I forgot the guy's name, but he's fighting as well.
Yes, sir. And Reggie, how about you, man? How do you looking ahead at this card that Showtime has next week? And I know we'll do a breakdown later in the week and whatnot, but just looking ahead.
Yeah, I want to see what Ennis is going to do. This is a step-up fight against a notable opponent, good opponent that's going to test him. And I agree with everything Kurt said. And I want to see where Ennis goes. If he is to get caught, how does he deal with that? What other plans does he come in with if he's not having success being one way? What adjustment does he make? Or if he just goes in here and he can blow Lipinets out, that's just going to show that he's getting much, much closer to getting his shot at a championship title. But even if he's in a tough fight, I believe Lipinets was a champion before. So even if he is in a tough fight against Lipinets, it's just to see how does he find his way of battling through the struggle. How does he find a way to win? So it's going to be many tests going into this fight. I choose him to win. But not all the time athleticism and being flashy is all that is guaranteed how far you rise as a champion. Because is he one of these guys that gets cracked with something and immediately you begin to see him guessing on what he wants to do, whether to continue on or possibly to find a way to get up out of this. He's not comfortable with this. There's been a lot of flashy fighters who you see that happen to where their athleticism can't get them out the way of punches coming from a certain a certain fighter who may have their number that night. So I just want to see what adjustments he can make. But I think he'll be successful in this one. Want to see how far in it's going to go. I think he is one of the top guys in 147. But that's my thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I look forward to it, and look forward to talking about it at more length, when we get closer to it during the week. Why don't you brothers go ahead and give us some final thoughts on today's show, the fights that we saw. And I intentionally didn't want to go backtracking on the undercards. I thought I wanted to give more shine to the main event, which was appropriate. Starting with you, Kurt, because I know you may be on borrowed time there. It's like, what are your overall thoughts, final thoughts for the show and everything?
Well, I was surprised at hearing. I thought he would lose. He won. It was a good showing. Frampton's going to retire, but I enjoyed the fight. Anytime you have a knockout like that, it's enjoyable. The uppercut. The last 2 years, the uppercut has been a vital punch, and more fighters are using it. It's been, I've seen at least 6 or 7 knockouts in the last year and a half with that punch, and it was the telling blow for Herring. He throws a good uppercut, and I enjoyed the fights, and look forward to next week's fights as well.
Yes, sir, and thank you for coming on, because anytime you're able to come on and talk about the fights with us, I always like to get your perspective and everything, and have you educate a lot of people, because you see boxing through a real scout's lens, and I like to hear you every time you get a chance to share that. So thank you for coming on this evening. Reggie, what are your final closing thoughts on the fights we saw today, and the show overall, and let everybody know where they can keep up with you?
Yes, sir, man. Another good show, man. I thought it was an excellent performance from Jamel Herring. Great performance, great finish. Other thing I want to criticize is that clown of a commentator following the fight. Thought that was, super disrespectful. What he did following that fight, to call over Frampton to conduct the interview first, hoping to create, sway, adding some excuses into the performance, and Frampton being a great sportsman, he gave full credit, no excuses. The better man won. And he told that reporter, you shouldn't be interviewing me, you should be interviewing him. He won the fight. And I respect Frampton for doing that honorable thing and letting that clown of a reporter know that. And then even when the clown calls Herring over there, it wasn't to celebrate Herring's victory. It was major disrespect. And I know Herring ain't confrontation, but I wish he would have had a Floyd Mayweather moment, because this clown was worse than anything I've seen from Larry Merchant. It was just a real clown thing. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way, seeing that clown of an announcer do that, as if they thinking something was guaranteed for Frampton. But other than that, it was a great event.
And I'm sorry to say, I did not catch that part, because I had already left from in front of my TV to go and get set up for the show. So can you just enlighten me a little bit on what he did and what happened with that?
Yeah, so following the fight, man, when they do the especially at the knockout, you expect them to go to the winner to give a replay of what happened. They didn't do that. He went right to Carl Frampton. He begins interviewing Carl Frampton.
Oh,
and
okay.
What went wrong and this and that, and Frampton let him know, like, he this is it. He's retiring. He said no excuses. He's the better man. That's what happened. And he's telling the guy, he's like, you shouldn't even be interviewing me. He won the fight. You should be interviewing. And that's when the guy, Frampton, kind of ended the interview, and the guy talking about, you get over here now, and said, I'm not going to let you leave without giving some words. And then he didn't even go and said, before you talk about anything, how was Dubai? How did you enjoy your time out here, and this type of stupid stuff? And then he want to ask about, like, kind of the next fight. That's when the Oscar Valdez stuff come up. But he didn't go through none of the breakdown of what did you, he gave it more towards Frampton being a tough guy, being a tough fighter, and nothing about how did he set up the knockout. No, you know how they go detailing how they went, what led to the knockout. They didn't do none of that. They didn't even touch on what he did in this fight. And I thought that was the most foulest thing I've seen from a scumbag with a suit.
Wow, I didn't catch that, and I'll have to go back. I guess the fight was on ESPN Plus, so I could go back and check that out on the replay. But wow, Kurt, did you have any comments on that before I say my final thoughts?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, it kind of put me in mind of the Holmes and Coney thing. I truly believe that for some reason Herring needed that knockout, because if the fight was somewhat close, they was going to give it to Frampton. So, I'm glad Herring got the knockout, but I did see that. I thought it was disrespectful. Why would you, when the guy wins, it's the winner who gets the interview first. That's a given, but they grabbed Carl Frampton. He said, "Get over here. I'm not going to let you." Yeah, that condescending tone he had, and I caught all that. I thought it was very disrespectful as well. But Jamar Herring, he handled it like a champ. And, certain guys in the boxing world are disrespectful.
Wow, man. Just wow. Yeah, you can't get away from this mess, huh? Wow. Anyway. Well, it was a good fight, man. A great fight for Herring to be able to come back and defend his title and to turn back some naysayers and doubters, and me amongst them, because until he does it, I can't give him the credit. But once he's done it, as he did tonight, I could give him all the credit in the world, because it's evident he was able to withstand the storm. He was able to defeat a high caliber fighter, because Carl Frampton was, and you can't go on saying, oh, he was too little for him and this and that. No, because people were talking about Frampton with loftiness, and just as lofty as he was knocked down from that perch by a fighter who was prepared for him and who was able to put them hands on him. And that's what we like to see in the sport: win, lose, or draw. And just thankful it didn't come to a decision where they could have tried to do some ugliness. I like that. I like when these fighters are able to decide the outcome with their fists and don't leave it in the hands of these crappy judges, especially when you're in foreign lands and you don't know what the climate is. But they always let you know what the climate is. But even when you're trying to be good-natured in your heart and everything, you can see what they try to do. So shout out to Jamar Herring for the success he had in his title defense this evening. Look forward to his next outing. Maybe he really will be able to carry something with him going forward. And salute to you two brothers here for coming on with me this evening or this late afternoon to talk about this fight. And we'll catch everybody on the next one. Salute to everybody. And like I said, next Saturday, we got that Jaron Ennis and Sergey Lipinets fight, which I think that's going to be another good one. And we look forward to it. So this is STORMYBMAN. I'm signing off. Appreciate everybody that's out there. Glad you tuned in. If you tuned in late, you can catch us on the replay. But we're here to bring you the post-fight show. And this was the post-fight show. Herring versus Frampton for the WBO Super Featherweight title. Broadcast on ESPN Plus. For me, and signing out for my brothers Kurt Sugar and Reggie Owens. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Peace.